Hey guys, 42 here again, and on this video let me talk about the reasons I got the Versys 1000. And this video is primarily gonna be for my old-time viewers, you know, old-timers who have been watching my channel for a while now and are familiar with the bikes I've had over the years, and you know, how I feel about them, the kind of bikes I like, and would have wanted to get. I like that diesel noise. But yeah, even if you're not an old timer to my channel, you're still welcome. And as long as I give you a brief introduction, you know, a quick background of my biking history, or at least the recent history, then I think this video will make sense to you as well. So for a long time I had a Harley Sportster 883, you know, one of those traditional air-cooled Harleys. I had it for around 7 years, from 2012 to 2019, when I sold it. What is this? Tractor, huh? And I didn't sell it because I didn't like it. I really did like it a lot. I sold it mainly because it was getting very impractical to continue owning it for me in our Indian conditions, because, you know, traditional air-cooled Harleys are really not ideal for our Indian conditions, especially if you consider using them as an all-rounder for, you know, all sorts of applications like riding in the city, in traffic, and so on. So yeah, when I sold the Harley, it was not because I didn't like it. It was because it was getting very difficult and expensive to maintain it, just to keep it running, and even then it would have a lot of downtime. So, you know, I would have to keep spending a lot of money on it, a lot of effort, and I would still not be able to use it all the time. So it was like, you know, I knew that if I kept continuing to dump money into it, I wouldn't get anything more in return to just keep running. And yeah, it did have some shortcomings. Like I said, you know, it wasn't really fit for Indian conditions because it was an air-cooled engine, and it would overheat, and even the brakes were not that good. Didn't have ABS, you know, being from 2012. So it was like, you know, a difficult choice, but I had to sell it. And then at that time there were a few bikes I was looking at, mainly the mid-range bikes, you know, 500, 650s, like the Versys 650, the V-Storm 650, although that was a little more expensive. And I was also looking at the Benelli TRK 502, because that's a great bike, you know. For the price, it's a great package. Even though the engine is a little underpowered. Well, it's not outright underpowered, you know. It has its strengths. It has great torque low down. It's really good for off-roading, you know. Because if you know your engines, you know that a 360-degree parallel twin is very similar in firing order to a boxer engine, a boxer twin, and those are great for low down torque. But yeah, at higher speeds, it could do high speeds pretty easily, say up to 150 or so. But yeah, you would have to rev it really high, and it didn't quite have that punch, you know, that punchy acceleration, that neck snapping kind of thing. So that I had in my Harley. Now the Harley also was not a very fast bike. It was only around 50 horsepower for an almost 300 kilos bike, but it had great torque. It had around 70 Newton meters of torque from a pretty low RPM. So, you know, right from idle, it would give you that kind of neck snapping feel. So let me play you a clip from back then, from the last ride I had on the Harley. That'll talk about the bikes I had in mind back then. What am I considering? Quite a few things actually, quite a few bikes. For one, the Benelli TRK 502, that really caught my attention. Mainly because it's a big bike, it's good for touring. Because, you know, I really want to have the touring capability, because I do ride with my wife and luggage to far off places. Well, not that far off, but you know, you've seen my tours. So that's a good one. But only problem with that is the 500cc engine is not powerful enough for such a big bike. So again, I may get tired of it pretty soon. For touring capable bikes, I think that's about the only one in my budget range. Although I may be able to stretch and go to, well, maybe a Versys 650, or I don't know. Ideally, a Versys 1000 would be perfect for me, but yeah, that's a little too far on the price range. So yeah, see, even back then I had my sights on a Versys 1000. Even though back then, of course, it was not very practical. I mean, it was quite honestly out of reach for me, at least a new one. So I was looking at the mid-range options, you know, the 650s and so on. And I test rode the 650, the Versys 650. I was quite happy with it. Performance seemed adequate. But of course, I test rode it solo in the city, without passenger, without luggage, so without all that additional weight. So yeah, I did have that thought in my mind that once I load it up and once I have to go on the highways, a little more power might be helpful if not necessary. So that's how I kind of felt that a Versys 1000 would be better than a 650. But why Versys? Because if you consider a Versys 1000 at that price range, you also have the Tigers from Triumph. Back then it was the 800, now you have the 850 and 900. Now you also have the Beamers, the 850 GS, the 900 XR. What else do you have there? But you get the idea, right? There are quite a few options at that price range. But yeah, what the Versys has, of course the Versys does have its shortcomings too. It's not an off-roader. It can do bad roads, but it's not intended to be an off-roader. The ground clearance isn't that high, and the wheels and tires are all road spec, you know. But yeah, where the Versys shines is the comfort. It's big and heavy, and somehow I like big and heavy bikes because they are very comfortable to sit on usually. Yeah, they can get a little uncomfortable when you have to maneuver in tight spaces and in traffic. But mostly from my experience, that's just something you have to get used to. And once you get used to it, that's no longer an issue. And then you have the 1000cc inline-4 engine. So in terms of power, I think it's significantly at an advantage compared to the other bikes I was talking about in that price range. Yes, it's also heavier, but I think it's still got an advantage. And you know, we Indians, we like inline fours, don't we? These trailers are so crazy. They take them out on the highways, wiggling about like that. Just crazy. So yeah, back then that was the reason I considered a Versys 1000 and not say a Tiger. Well, back then we didn't have anything from BMW in that price range, I think. So yeah, I didn't talk about that. So then what happened is, I knew that once I sold the Harley, for a while I wouldn't really be in a position to get the bike I wanted. I knew that I would have to save up for a while and then look at something. So yeah, I had kind of planned to wait around a year or two and then get something. But it was not even 2 months, I think. When I got really desperate for a bike. I had my Vespa, but it was better than nothing on 2 wheels. But yeah, I was really missing a motorcycle, a proper motorcycle. So yeah, that's when I started taking test rides of the 650s, you know, the Versys mainly. And yeah, back then it was a little difficult for me to afford them right away. And even if I could, I wasn't very sure if those were the right bikes for me. So I wasn't very willing to spend that money on something I wasn't sure about. And then I came across the Interceptor, the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, which I currently also have. That for the price, it seemed like a good deal. Yeah, the performance wasn't great, but it was adequate. There were quite a few other shortcomings, mainly in terms of riding comfort and so on. In terms of how touring capable the bike was. But I figured I could, since I was paying less to begin with, I could spend some more money on it later down the line and customize it according to my needs. So I got that. But over time I realized that even if you spend money on modifying that bike, it would still not be quite what you want it to be, you know, in terms of comfort and touring capabilities. So yeah, I was still looking for something better, and now I was in a position to once again consider something. And again, I was looking at the 650s because those are the bikes that were in my price range again, because I would also, I mean, no matter what bike I got, I would still have to spend some money on doing some upgrades, you know, especially for touring, like luggage and so on. I need to get some fuel. Just stop by at the gas station coming up. So yeah, what was I talking about? Yeah, so recently I started looking at some bikes again because I had the funds to, well, get something better. And you know, I had almost narrowed down to the V-Strom 650 and the Versys 650, even though there was quite a price difference between the two. So brand new, I wasn't really considering anything else that time. Because what else is there in that price range, which is, you know, a tourer, if not an adventure tourer. then I thought, why not look at the used market? Maybe I can get something better for the same price. Although, yeah, there are risks associated with used bikes, of course. But if you're careful and if you are okay to spend some extra on, you know, getting some things fixed, it's fine, right? And of course, based on what's available, you can take a call on if it's if you're getting enough extra to go for it. And so I started looking. I just put up a post on Facebook, you know, on one of the classified groups. I specifically asked for a few bikes, and one of them was a Versys 1000. I mean, I knew that it's not a very common bike in India. It's not very popular. I don't know why. Because I think it should be. It's a great bike. And I really wasn't expecting any responses. But I did, and there was this one. And it looked like a good deal, a great bike, a bike in good condition, with quite a few extras, you know, in terms of fitments, accessories, so on. It looked like a good deal, so I took it. So once again, yeah, why Versys? Because say if I was looking for a Tiger, I would definitely have quite a few options from various generations. You know, the 800s with the different variants, XR, XC, what all you have there. Yeah, the current 850, the 900, of course, probably would not be in my price range because they're not that old yet. Yeah, so like I said, you know, it's an underdog. It's a great bike. People don't know about it because it's not hyped up as much as the more hardcore adventure bikes. Like I said, it has its shortcomings. It's not intended for off-roading, but it can take bad roads pretty well. And that's what you really need. I would like to try out off-roading sometime on some bike, but it's not something I keenly intend on doing anytime soon, you know. What I really need, so the off-road thing is kind of like a want, maybe, not a need, you know. And what I need is more of a bad roads or all roads capable bike that I can tool comfortably on. Have you seen the seats on this? Wow, I mean, I don't know what other bike short of say a Harley, a bigger Harley, has seats this comfy. Okay, maybe yeah, you have those touring bikes like the Goldwing, the Beamer RT, you know, the R1250 RT. Yeah, those are perhaps a little more comfortable than this. But yeah, this is almost in that league, you know, for so much less. And the 1000cc inline 4 engine. Need I say more? I mean, if touring is your intention, not necessarily off-roading, like where you deliberately go off the road, find trails to ride on, then this is a great bike. And in India, you know, when you occasionally come across, well, not occasionally, it's almost all the time, when you come across bad roads, this can handle them. Not as well as the adventure bikes, yeah, but it can handle them. And on the highways, such a fun bike to ride. Even on the city roads, you know, this is great. You don't have to be going fast to enjoy riding this bike. That's what I've noticed. Look at me now. I'm not going that fast. I'm doing 90, 6th gear. It's so relaxed, so comfortable. You have fully adjustable front and rear suspension. That's not something you get, you know, unless you really go up to very expensive bikes. Yeah, the Versys 650 has it as well. So that's the thing about Kawasaki's, I've noticed. You know, they really make good value for money bikes, at least in India, because in India the choices are limited. You don't have a lot of options from Yamaha. We don't have the MTs and FJs. Honda hardly has anything. They have the Africa Twin and they have the CB500X, nothing else. Suzuki has the V-Strom 650, not the 1000 or the 1050. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, Triumph gives you a good offering, I mean a good range of offerings. Kawasaki does that as well. And I think both, even Triumph is not, they have a, they are reasonably priced, I would say, for what they're offering you, mostly. Beamers, that's another story. Yeah, they do offer quite a few products in the Indian market, not all of them, but yeah, in terms of price, yeah, need I say more? And it's not just the initial buying cost, you know. And even there, even when you're initially buying it, if you want the full experience, you have to go for unlocking those pro modes and whatnot. And they charge you a pretty high price for those things too. I like looking at my shadow when I ride, you know. It's almost like you're getting a drone shot of yourself if it's at the right angle. So I think you have a good idea of why I went for the Versys 1000. So to sum it up, an adventure bike would be great, but the real reason I was looking for an adventure bike or something like that was the riding posture, the comfort, the passenger comfort as well, and the luggage carrying capacity, and yeah, the ability to handle bad roads, not necessarily off-road, you know. So the Versys 650, I like that. It was a good bike. The V-Strom also was good, but cost significantly higher. So once you added up the accessories, the luggage and so on, it would be quite a bit more, almost Versys 1000 territory there, you know, brand new. And then I got the Versys 1000 for less than that, so, and with quite a few accessories, so why not? So alright then, I think this video is already getting quite long. I'll end it here. What are the plans for the channel? What am I doing with my other bikes? What am I doing with my Interceptor? Well, we'll have to see. I'm not quite sure yet. Of course, it's getting difficult for me to maintain so many bikes. I have 4 of them now. It's really difficult just to cycle through them, you know, keep them running often enough. So yeah, I'm not sure yet what I'm doing with that. What else? Long ride plans, tour plans, nothing concrete yet, but of course I'm itching to take this out on a long tour. Well, it's not going to be a long tour, it's just going to be a long ride, you know. Maybe multi-day, but not that many days, because I'm working now. I don't have that many days off. Alright then, that's all I have for this video. Catch you on the next one. Bye bye.